Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Ikumi. It was a very serious and event-filled week at the National Assembly. The viral video of U.S. Congressman Scott Perry, who alleged during a hearing that the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has been involved in financing terrorist activities across the world, including Boko Haram here in Nigeria, was taken up at the National Assembly. Both chambers of the National Assembly resolved to thoroughly investigate the allegation, and in the Green Chamber, there were renewed calls for regulation of activities of NGOs and CSOs. Take a look.
Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan.
Days after a United States Congress hearing accused the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, of allegedly funding Boko Haram, members of the Nigerian Parliament debated the matter seriously.
Funding of Boko Haram.
In the Senate, following a motion by Senator Ali Ndume, a resolution was reached to investigate the allegations.
Also note that this allegation is coming up at the heels of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, raising an alarm that Boko Haram terrorist groups are being sponsored and trained by international organizations. Further notes that over the years, the modus operandi of Boko Haram in Nigeria has been a source of great concern. Urgent need for steps to be taken by the federal government to unravel the mystery behind this whole episode.
We do not need a very robust, elaborate debate. Why? Because as the affects law-making body of the country, the Senate, we need to be briefed, first and foremost, by the heads of various security agencies in a closed-door session.
If there's anything to lead us to where this problem is coming from, of course, we should take the advantage. We should see that advantage to see how we can deal with this serious calamity.
The investigation is going on right now in the United States Congress. The President, Donald Trump, also said specifically that in that investigation, the support given to Nigeria so far should also be investigated.
The Senate should immediately invite the National Security Advisor, the Director General of the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, the Director General of the DSS, Director General of the DIA, to brief the Senate in a closed session on the veracity or otherwise of these very serious allegations. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Similarly, in the House of Representatives, Honorable Inua Garba drew attention to the billions of dollars so far received by Nigeria from USAID and fears that Boko Haram would have benefited from these funds.
Aware that from 2022 to 2024, Nigeria has received a total of approximately $2.7 billion from USAID, of which 1.469 trillion was allocated for health, 887 million for humanitarian services, 141.77 million for economic development, 41.75 million for education, and 16.39 million for peace and security. The remaining funds directed towards programs support.
Some lawmakers believe that this calls for the need to investigate and regulate the activities of NGOs, development agencies, and CSOs in the country.
Mr. Speaker, this betrays my point. When I brought a bill on this floor, the bill went to second reading. But for some reasons, in order to regulate and manage and observe these NGOs, these development agencies, and the CSOs, for some reasons, this bill is not yet slated. Perhaps we wouldn't have been where we are now, because it would have been given the Chief of General Staff complaint about the involvement of development agencies, the NGOs, the CSOs in the affairs and the security of this country.
Our second report looks at the corrected errors in the 2025 Appropriations Bill and the heated exchange between Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and the Senate President. And in the House of Representatives, we'll highlight the reaction of the House of Representatives to the security situation in Osun State and the recent rampant killing of women across the country. Here's a report.
During the week, lawmakers ratified the 2025 Appropriation Bill. The bill is back to the floor for corrections on the first day of plenary for the week.
The Senate observed that at the point of cleaning and realigning, the Joint Committee on Appropriation discovered some errors in the underlisted lines item passed by the Nigerian Senate and the House of Representatives.
Some of the key budget adjustments include Ministry of Defense revised from 2.51 trillion naira to 2.49 trillion naira. Ministry of Police Affairs adjusted from 1.225 trillion naira to 1.224 trillion naira. Similarly, corrections were made in capital allocations, including reductions in the budgets for key ministries. Presidency reduced from 144.4 billion naira to 142.7 billion naira. Federal Ministry of Works revised from 2.04 trillion naira to 2 trillion naira. And the Ministry of Education reduced from 953.9 billion naira to 944.6 billion naira. The same corrections were made in the House of Representatives.
The recurrent non-debt expenditure was increased to 13,582,673 naira, and the capital reduced to 23,339,251,624,250 naira, changed as a result of correction and realignment made by the committee.
Back in the Senate, tensions flared during plenary as a dispute over seating arrangements led to a heated exchange between the senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and the Senate leadership.
In the exercise of the powers conferred on the Senate President pursuant to Order 6, Rule 2 and 2A, the President of the Senate decided to rearrange this seat, giving directives to the Chief Whip to exercise that function. And pursuant to that directive, seats were reallocated. And I was surprised to report that Senator Natasha, having given another seat, refused to vacate her former seat in flagrant violation of our rules.
Order, please.
Dismiss Senator Natasha, please. You are not recognized to speak from there. That is the order of the Senate.
Sir, Order 10 on privileges. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move.
I choose, as the senator duly elected by my people, I choose to remain on this seat. All God's name. I am not afraid of you, Mr. Senate President, but you will not silence my voice. You will not silence my voice.
She is not escorted out. However, her colleagues plead with her to maintain calm.
The recent movement of the senators is attributable mainly to the defection of Senator Nedwoko and Ezewan. And as a result of that, there was a need to reallocate the seats accordingly. So the Senate President did what is expected of him, but the reaction from my colleague senator from Kogi State this morning is uncalled for. I want to sincerely apologize on behalf of the Kogi caucus to the Senate President and the entire Senate.
What you have done, you have the power to do it, and you have you did it at the best interest of the Senate. I don't know why this place will be turned upside down because of that. So I will want her to at least come out and apologize to us.
In his response, the Senate called for calm.
What has happened today is a total aberration. But anybody who wishes to go and make law must be prepared to obey the law. The Chief Whip, if you want to be a lawmaker, be prepared to obey the law. So my ruling on this issue is, please, distinguished senators, do not feel offended. Let us continue to focus on the business that brought us here.
When calm was restored, plenary continued with a motion on the Benue State House of Assembly crisis.
The State House of Assembly passed a resolution removing the state's chief judge in contravention of relevant sections of the Constitution and without the participation of the National Judicial Council. And Mr. President, a few members, like 14 of them out of the 32 members of the Benue State House of Assembly, abstained from participation on that illegality. And subsequently, they were suspended. And so, Mr. President, we feel that unless there is an urgent intervention, there is the possibility of a constitutional crisis, because this issue borders on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. And so, if Mr. President indulges me, with the consent of my colleagues, I will move the motion.
Meanwhile, in the Green Chamber, the attention of the members was drawn to the deteriorating security situation in Osun State by the State Caucus.
The House notes that on Monday, the 17th of February 2025, violence broke out in several parts of Osun State as a result of attempts to take over the administration of local government by officials who were sacked by 2 court judgments in November of 2022. Disturbed that the sacked officials are now breaking the gate of their respective local government secretariats to forcefully take over the local government without recourse to law and due process.
All the prayers, except that of the 1 minute silence, should be deleted while the House, not to be seen as being partisan, to call for a committee to investigate this matter, and the outcome of the committee will give us an informed decision.
It is always a bit dangerous for us to take decision without investigating the matter ourselves. Before we take a position with finality, we need to do the investigation, conduct the investigation ourselves. So whatever happened, we put it in the legal term, allegation, alleged until it is proven, isn't it? So it is in that context I felt that what Honorable Isiaka is proposing is a good one.
The House resolves to urge the security heads to ensure that peace is restored in the state and constitutes an ad hoc committee to carry out an investigation within a week.
Mr. Speaker,
the attention of the House was also drawn to an impending danger along the Lokoja Highway.
Consigned that on Monday, 17th of February 2025, a very strategic accident occurred involving about 10 students of the Federal University of Lokoja alongside driver conveying them and articulated trucks carrying woods ran into the school shuttle bus conveying students, leading to the loss of their lives. Also consigned that along this particular route, many students of Kogi State Polytechnic and residents of Lokoja, neighboring Felele and immediate communities or travelers have met their untimely death.
The intentional killing of women and girls.
Also within the week, a motion was sponsored by 4 lawmakers raising alarm over killing of women and the delay in justice delivery.
Concerned that the slow and ineffective justice system allows perpetrators to gain media attention. Some have become beauty pageant winners, while trials for serious crimes like homicide are prolonged. Convinced that establishing special divisions within existing courts with exclusive jurisdiction over homicide and related cases will expedite justice, reduce backlogs, and restore public confidence in the legal system.
The House resolves to urge the National Judicial Council to facilitate the designation of special divisions within existing courts at all levels to expeditiously handle homicide and femicide cases.
Welcome back to the Gavel. Another defection was recorded in the House of Representatives, and that's 3 in 2 weeks, all to the APC, to be specific. Yusuf Galambi, representing Gwaram Federal Constituency of Jigawa State, dumped the NNPP for the APC. In the meantime, the House, through a motion, is calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct by-elections for vacant seats in the National and State Assemblies. With the controversies surrounding defection, let's turn to the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center again to explain this time the role of INEC in all of these.
Certificate of returns issued to legislators or members of the National Assembly contains the party on which that member contested and won that seat. So when members defect, there's this question of the implication of still holding on to a certificate of return containing the name of the party from which he or she has defected. And it also raises issues about loyalty, loyalty to the voters, people who went to the polls to vote for either the candidate or vote for the party. It's common in Nigeria for people to go to the polls, and vote because of preference for a particular political party. And, the courts are of the opinion that votes actually belong to the party and not necessarily the candidates. So, these are issues actually not by these defections of what it portends. The role of INEC here, I think INEC only comes in if a vacancy has been declared, because, vacancy occurs in different ways. It could be through death or resignation of a member from the National Assembly. So INEC can only act when the seat has been officially declared vacant by the presiding officer. So in terms of solutions, looking at the political environment and Nigeria's political landscape and, the problems we've seen with political parties, we really don't see this problem going away anytime soon, but it can be mitigated. I don't think there's a magic bullet, that can solve this problem of defections, but it can be mitigated. And the primary way really is for political parties to strengthen internal mechanisms. I know that the Ninth Assembly, there was a proposal to actually tighten the provisions of Section 68(1)(g) to clearly define what a division means, or to, make the provisions stricter so our politicians can't walk around the loophole or the gap in the Constitution, but that amendment didn't sail through. Another way is also to activate, for citizens to activate a recall mechanism, but that is one area of the Constitution, one that has been very, very difficult to implement because, the provisions for recalling members who voters feel, are not staying committed to the promises they made during election. The requirements are very, very difficult and onerous to satisfy. The requirements for a recall is, it involves a referendum, it involves going to the constituency of that member and acquiring signatures. And I think you need signatures of at least 50% of the registered voters in that constituency. So, of course, to get that voters register, it means you have to go to INEC and get the voters register and then, go around collecting signatures. It's actually very, very burdensome, and it has never happened, at least not in the Fourth Republic. It's very important for legislators to be clear in lawmaking. Legislative intent should be clear when reading a legal provision. It should be something, or rather, legal provisions should not be understandable only to lawyers. It should be something that should be understood, by an average person, by a citizen. People should be able to pick up legislation and read it and understand the import. But that's not always the case. We have situations where legal provisions are not clearly defined. And I think that is one of the reasons for conflicting decisions you see in court. So even that confusion even carries into, it gets carried into the judiciary. We've seen that with the Electoral Act and with election petitions, where provisions of the Constitution are interpreted differently by courts and tribunals. But I would say that the National Assembly or the drafts people can only do to the best of their ability, because sometimes you only actually understand the imports or the real impact of a legal provision when it's implemented. And that is why it's important for the National Assembly to do a post-legislation scrutiny and kind of to conduct a post-mortem and assessment to see how provisions of a law was implemented. So in as much as, we advise the National Assembly to be very, very clear and define issues in the law, sometimes everything can go into the legislation. That is why you have regulations and you have guidelines, because you cannot put fine prints in the Constitution. Everything can be in a body of legislation to make it too voluminous. So while we advocate for clear legislative drafting, it's also important for there to be a post-legislation assessment and scrutiny, because some things only become obvious after it has been implemented.
This week on Constituency Focus, Honorable Oluwole Oke from Osun State, representing Ogboko-Oriade Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, gives account of his stewardship.
My constituency is a constituency where people want to see what you have done in the areas of capacity building, human capital development. They are aware that I am not the local government chairman. I am not the governor of the state. I am not the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They are aware of my mandate, that my mandate rests squarely on Section 4 of the Constitution to make laws, right? But because we are the closer people, or let me say, the group of that is more with the people, with the grassroots, because for an average person in my village, in my constituency, to see the governor, it's a very tall order. Not to now talk of him saying, Mr. At best, maybe on television, right? But on weekend basis, bi-weekly, monthly, you have to be with them. So I'm very close to them. So, and I know their needs. So their mindset is human capital development. Okay, we have sent our children to school. They have graduated. Can you help them to get employment? If you can't help them to get employment, can you help them, to be empowered? Skills acquisition. And of course, helping them to get seed capital with which they can start doing something for themselves. This is the major focus of my constituents. Aside that, they also want infrastructure. Even though when they know that that is not the basis of electing me, because those ones are purely executive function. It's only on a wise lawmaker that will be competing with his local government chairman, with his governor, or with the president in the areas of, infrastructure, capital projects. At best, the window we have here is the opportunity given to us through constituency projects. And what can we do in that area? You begin to look at key sectors, particularly where in our constitution, items that are on concurrent list. For example, health. Yes, the local government, the state government can contribute to that sector. But the federal government can also intervene. Education. Both the two other arms of government can contribute, then the federal government can also intervene. And that is why we're able to build primary health care centers, renovation of hospitals, renovation of schools, or building of new schools. So that's the window which we use to intervene in those sectors. We also look at agriculture, right? It's also on concurrent list. It's not an exclusive list. So when you now come to roads, unfortunately for me, not all my roads are classified as grade A roads. That is federal roads. Most of the roads in my constituency are B and C. They are roads that belong to state and local government. I've raised the motions here for federal government intervention in those roads. The letter I got from Federal Ministry of Works was that those roads are not federal roads. So that is where I have limitation in the, but those roads that are federal roads in my constituency, you can see federal government intervention. For example, if you look at the roads that from Akure to Ilesha, it passes through after Igbaraoke. The next place you get is Oweno. So that road passes through the length of my constituency up to Ilesha, Iloko Junction. So you can see those roads are in good condition because we're able to lobby and get the Federal Ministry of Works to work on them. Now, you have another road that's also a federal road. It is the road from Iwaraja that links us to Ekiti State, Efalaye. It's also a federal road. So over years, that road was abandoned. But I think sometimes in 2009 and 10, I got intervention, and the federal government came and fixed the road.
Well, that's all the time we have on the Gavel this week. Thanks for watching. Catch this episode and others on YouTube by searching for Gavel or go to channelstv.com. I'm Terry Kumi. Goodbye.